I'm the illegitimate daughter that no one wants to acknowledge, and I mysteriously disappeared when I was 6. It was Tim who saved me from the bad guys. Are they going to come for me again? A wave of panic washed over me. Tim gently held my face and said, "As long as I'm around, they won't take you." Later, he protected and cared for me for over 10 years. The night Tim found me, I was being passed between bad guys. He just happened to walk by that dark, filthy alley. I just happened to see someone passing by and instinctively shouted for help. I barely got the word help out when a rough, smelly hand grabbed me from behind. Tim glanced over and kept walking without a care. That big hand covered my entire face. It was so tight, I almost suffocated. Just as I was starting to lose consciousness, I felt myself drop to the ground like a free-falling rock. The guy holding me collapsed with a thud when Tim, who had circled back somehow, hit him on the back of the head with a hard stick. Another guy saw Tim holding the steel bar and yelled, "You better mind your own business, kid. Let her find me if you dare." Tim smirked, scooping me up and carrying me out of the alley. In his secure arms, I tilted my face up to see a bright moon in the night sky. It wasn't a full moon, but it lit up the sky like daylight. I was woken up by the sound of 2 men arguing. The room was dark, and the heated argument was coming from outside the door. "Do you know what you're doing?" one man asked. "Yeah, I know," the other replied. "Do you know who you messed with this time?" "Yep. It doesn't matter what else is going on. This isn't happening under my watch." "Tim. Just go back." After a moment of silence, I heard a door slam. Tim must have driven him away. I mustered up the courage to leave the room and saw Tim smoking on the couch. The dim floor lamp in the living room made everything hazy, and I couldn't see his face clearly. "You're awake? Hungry?" he asked. As if on cue, my stomach growled loudly. I hadn't eaten for a couple of days, just been forced to drink water. There was something in the water that made me sleep deeply, losing track of time. Tim laughed and walked into the kitchen. He returned shortly with a bowl of noodles. The aroma was so good it made me cry. "Doesn't look like you're that hungry, crying instead of eating," he teased. I ate every bit of the noodles and broth while crying. Tim watched me intently. "How old are you?" "6, I think," I whispered back. "6, you think? You don't know?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Do you remember where your home is? I'll take you back in the morning." With a cigarette in his mouth, Tim cleared the dishes in front of me. I shook my head and murmured, "I don't remember." Tim put the dishes down and looked at me. "You're 6 but don't remember your home? I didn't go out much." "You're that precious, huh?" Tim chuckled. "It's not that I'm precious, it's that I'm not supposed to be seen," I said, catching him off guard. Tim didn't expect me to say that. "Why not supposed to be seen?" he asked. "Aunties said I'm a wild child born of some mistress," I explained, repeating what they used to tell me. My answer left Tim stunned. My story was complicated. "Who's the aunt?" he asked. "Aren't your parents taking care of you?" "I've never met my mom. They said she took the money and ran." "And what about your dad?" "He's not around either." "Wow, that's harsh." Tim took me to the bedroom and rummaged through a bunch of t-shirts, asking, "Do you remember how you got taken?" "Karina brought me out," I said shyly, standing aside. "Who's Karina?" he asked. "An auntie who took care of me." Tim finally straightened up to look at me. "What's your name?" "You must have one." "Lily." He chuckled at my name while tossing me a huge t-shirt that smelled like fresh laundry. My grandpa, he was the best to me. Thinking back on the days my grandpa took care of me, those were my most cherished moments. From what I can remember, he was the only family around. The housekeepers used to say my mom was one of Mike's affairs, but she wanted more than that. As a kid, I didn't get it when they said, "She's a homewrecker. A bad woman. She seduced Mr. Mike, and after having you, she left. Apparently, Mike slipped up, and she got pregnant with me. My mom played it cool and kept it a secret from Mike. She hoped having a child would elevate her status, but was disappointed when it turned out to be a girl. Having a secret child infuriated Mike. He couldn't allow a scandal like an illegitimate daughter out there. He gave my mom $3 million and a permanent residency in Singapore, on the condition that she disown me and never return. She really took the money and left without looking back. At home, I lived like I was walking on glass, searching for any joy. Mike's wife knew he had flings, but didn't expect a child. On the outside, our family seemed perfect, but it was all a show. The ugliness and filth were only aware to insiders. At the family estate, when Mike's wife saw me, I was in my grandpa's arms. My grandpa, the only one who cared. He knew his son's tendencies and didn't blame a child for the chaos. His calm words to Mike's wife, "I'll take care of the child, don't worry," left her speechless and furious. His wife was livid that day. She looked at me with such hatred, as if she wanted to choke me. After Grandpa suddenly fell ill, was paralyzed for months, and then died, Mike's wife couldn't swallow her bitterness anymore. She'd take out her anger on me, sometimes scaring me to the point I wet myself. Mike's wife did her best to yell at me, throwing my mom's dirty laundry in my face, calling me a bastard child. I could only huddle in a corner, trembling, silently taking in all her nasty words. Those dirty, disdainful words stuck like a curse, haunting my young mind. Sometimes, even the nanny would get caught in the crossfire and get scolded too. In the end, they just kept me in my room, making sure I didn't wander around. I was kept out of the sunlight, knowing very little about the outside world. So much so that when Karina took me out, none of it was familiar. But even then, Karina left me alone on the street, saying she'd be back after buying an iced lemon tea. Maybe she wasn't really going for an iced lemon tea. Why else would she not return by nightfall? I was tired and hungry until a kind lady handed me a delicious-smelling sausage. At first, I didn't dare take it. But she offered again and said, "Hungry? Take it, eat." I smiled and thanked her, taking a bite. It was so good. But before I could swallow the fourth bite, I passed out for some reason. When I told Tim these stories, he was silent for a long time. He's not much of a talker, but he smokes a lot. One cigarette after another, so his voice is pretty rough. After thinking for a bit, Tim pointed to a small room and said, "You can sleep there tonight. I'll figure out what to do with you tomorrow." It sounded a bit like he was gonna dump me somewhere, but somehow, I felt safer with him than at home. That night, I just kept praying that Tim wouldn't send me away the next day. And he didn't. Because when I woke up, he was already gone and didn't come back until late. I was scared, didn't dare go anywhere. Someone pounded on the door hard, and I hid in the closet out of fear. I buried myself in Tim's pile of clothes and vaguely heard people barging in, arguing, then leaving. The whole time, I didn't dare make a sound or move. I'm small enough to hide in clothes, so they didn't find me. All I could smell was Tim's scent on the clothes as I fell asleep in the pile. Tim came back at night. His return woke me up. I peeked through the partly open closet door. Even though we just met, I could recognize his footsteps. Tim walked, a bit hunched and slow, calling out, "Kid?" That raspy voice of his sounded tired. "Lily?" He called my name again, voice a little shaky. When he turned around, I saw his face and knew it was him. That gave me the courage to scramble out of the closet. "Brother, I'm here." At that point, Tim hadn't told me his name, so I just called him brother. Hearing brother, he stood there, staring at me for a long time. Tears rolled down his pretty eyes. I walked up to him and noticed he had a bruise on his face. "Brother, what happened to your face?" Tim bent down, wiping away his tears like nothing happened, saying, "Got in a fight, it's nothing." He glanced at the closet, half smiling, "Why'd you hide in there?" "The closet's full of dirty clothes, unwashed." I said, "No wonder it smelled so strong." I was scared. It seemed like someone came in this afternoon. Tim ruffled my hair, smart move, knowing to hide and not getting caught. Are they trying to take me away? Fear hit me again. Tim must have seen the fear and worry in my eyes. He held my face. With me here, they can't take you. That night, I didn't want to sleep alone. Tim let me sleep in his room. I took the bed, he took the floor. When I woke up early in the morning, I scrambled up and realized I was still in his house, and that's when I relaxed. I didn't sleep well at all, afraid someone would come to take me away in my dreams. Seeing Tim in the kitchen wearing an apron, making breakfast, put my heart at ease. Kid, go brush your teeth and wash your face, breakfast's ready, Tim said, waiting for me outside the room. Like I'd been his little sister living with him for years. Do you want to go home? If you do, I can help you find your way, Tim asked me during breakfast. Talking about home made the fried rice with ham lose its flavor. I guess Tim had heard what I'd been through at Mike's, that's why he was asking. No, I said honestly. Tim nodded, finished breakfast, and took me to see someone. It was a man in a uniform. Hey Leo, help me out, Tim got straight to the point. This kid can't find her home, think you can check her household registration? The guy, Leo, looked at me a few times and pulled Tim aside, whispering, where'd you find a kid? I saved her from some bad people. Leo got an officer to check the National Household Registry, but no Lily matched my profile. Mike's never even registered me. Leo also checked recent missing persons reports, and nobody was looking for a Lily. It meant I'd been missing for 5 days, and nobody had reported it. Leo's face was complicated, but Tim seemed unfazed, like he expected it. Kitty, you really don't remember where you live? Try to think again. Leo asked, still unsure. I shook my head. It's not just that I didn't want to go back, even if I did, I couldn't pinpoint the location. Mike's big villa sat on a hill. The nanny had to be driven to get groceries. In my life, I've been out so few times I could count them. I glanced at Tim, meeting his smiling eyes. Leo, I'll take the kid for now. Let me know when you find her home. Tim smoothly took my hand. Hey, hold on a second. How can you just take her away like that? Even if you can't find her family, she should go to a welfare house first. Leo said this and then paused for a moment. Tim stopped in his tracks. He sneered, a welfare house? Molly got sold out of a welfare house. Molly is Tim's younger sister. After meeting with Leo, Tim was silent on the way home. He held my hand tightly, and I occasionally glanced up at him. I was worried about what Tim said to Leo earlier, about notifying him once my family was found. I was worried that Leo might find Mike's house soon. Why do you keep looking at me? Tim finally couldn't help but ask, looking down at me. Will that man find my house? Do you want him to find it, or do you want him not to? My time at Mike's house was a mess. I didn't even know what my mom looked like and barely saw my dad. I saw Mike's wife more than I saw my dad. And then there was Mike's wife's real son, the family's golden boy, who enjoyed bullying me. At Mike's house, all I got was scolding, beating, and humiliation. If Mike's family cared about you, they wouldn't have left you off the household register or not reported you missing after all these days. If that man can't find my house, can I stay with you forever? Tim didn't say anything but just looked down at me. Aren't you scared to stay with me? You're better than those people at Mike's. Brother, can I stay with you forever? I couldn't help asking. Staying with me doesn't guarantee good days. Back then, I didn't know what good days were. I only knew I felt secure with Tim. Later, without any news from Leo, Tim took care of me for a while. Eventually, he decided to move. The place we lived in was chaotic, filled with all sorts of people. When the landlord came by for the last time, Tim told her he wasn't renewing the lease. Why not? The lady landlord seemed to like him, always looking at Tim with twinkling eyes. My sister needs to go to school, Tim said, cigarette in mouth, while handing a wad of cash to the landlord. Can you help me out, sis? Get my sister some clothes and books. I sat at the dining table, and the landlord peeked at me. Since when did you have a sister? She looks about 10 years younger than you. She's not your kid, is she? The landlord joked half-heartedly. You can think that if you want. If you don't want to help, that's fine. Tim pretended to take back the money. Hey, I never said I wouldn't help. I'll bring them in a couple of days. To show his appreciation, Tim flashed her a charming smile. The landlord was happy, clutching the money as she walked away. Brother, does that lady like you? I couldn't help gossiping. Tim glanced at me. You call me brother and call her aunt. She liking me crosses a generation. Is it a generational thing if I like you? In my innocence, my question left Tim coughing on his water for quite a while. A few days before we moved, Leo showed up. I was startled, thinking he had come to take me home. Tim was also taken aback, standing there with a pot of soup as if frozen. However, Leo was casual, entering the room to change shoes, wash his hands, and join for dinner. Somehow, this is elusive to God, a hot meal right from the pot. He chuckled, sitting at the dining table. Tim plunked the soup pot loudly on the table, pretending to calmly probe. What brings you here today? Did you find something? Find what? Leo feigned ignorance while giving me a piece of braised fish with chopsticks. Why are you here then? Just for a meal? Tim rudely shoved a wine glass in front of Leo. Nah, no alcohol. Still got work this afternoon. Leo pushed the glass away, glancing at me before turning to Tim. Why did you suddenly decide to move? This place is chaotic. You didn't think it was chaotic before? That's because the kid wasn't here before. Tim ladled soup while explaining. I don't mind where I live, but it's not safe here for a young girl. Tim placed the soup in front of me. Midway through the meal, Leo finally got serious. Still haven't found her family. No one's looking for this kid. I breathed a sigh of relief, hiding my smile in the bowl. Did you tell Jason about moving? Leo asked Tim. No, haven't seen him lately. Don't mention it to him. Tim looked at Leo in confusion, and Leo continued. Becky's people are still looking for this kid. Move and don't let Jason know. He's troublesome, can't keep his mouth shut. Yeah, I know. Few people have seen this child. I'm moving to find her a school. I'll help you with that. Thanks, Leo. With Leo's help, I smoothly got into elementary school. Because I hadn't learned much growing up, I struggled when I first started. The teacher noticed and asked me to bring in a guardian. So Tim went. Seeing that he wasn't much older and didn't look like my father, the teacher asked what he was to me. I'm her brother. But you don't have the same last name. One takes the father's, the other the mother's. Tim replied offhandedly without skipping a beat. The teacher adjusted his glasses and said, Why didn't the parents come? Also, what did your sister learn before school? She has no foundation. My parents died in a car accident. It's just me taking care of her. I have to work to support us, so she's alone with no one to teach her. Tim's voice was calm, his face unflinching. The weight of his words filled the office with silence. The teachers all looked over at us. My young homeroom teacher opened and closed his mouth, struggling with words. Tim, with his raspy voice from smoking, spoke up. My sister's just a kid. She's new to school and needs time to adapt. I hope you can be patient with her, teacher. Also, now that you know about our situation, I hope you won't treat her differently. I've heard bullying is quite serious these days. She's my only sister, and if anyone dares to bully her, I'll deal with them myself. Anything else, teacher? Tim seemed polite, but his tone was aggressive. His sharp features and intense gaze made him seem older than he was. No. Nothing else. Tim, emanating authority, took my hand and walked out of the office. This unexpected move gave me a solid start to my 6 years in elementary school. Teachers knew I was alone with my brother and showed extra care. Students respected me because of my brother who dared to confront teachers. As he said, I needed time to adapt. Once I got used to the elementary environment, everything was pretty good. Good grades, good social life, good conduct. Tim was good too, picking me up from school almost daily. Back then, I didn't really know what he did for work. Just that after school, he was the coolest one standing out among a sea of grandparents. He always had a way of making sure I could spot him right away. Sometimes he'd have cartoon balloons in hand, easily visible from afar. Sometimes he'd hold a giant cotton candy high above his head. And sometimes, he'd just shout my name, Lily. I loved when he called my name in the crowd. Then I'd run towards him, arms wide open, carefree. Because I knew, Tim would always catch me. This journey continued from elementary through middle school, into high school. If it weren't for our family showing up, maybe we'd have lived this peaceful life forever. Tim quit his old job to take care of me, opened a shop with a tattoo studio upstairs and a bar downstairs. I later learned Tim was a top-notch tattoo artist. His studio was always busy with customers and friends. He charged $1,800 an hour for tattoos. But he never let me hang out at the shop. I was curious to see him at work, but every time he'd say, "You just make a mess there." I promised him I wouldn't, determined, but he never budged. Then one day, he didn't come to pick me up. Tim had always been there, and by senior year, I could count the times I walked home on one hand. So when he texted me to go home alone, I knew something was off. After night study, I went home, and Tim was still out. Called him several times, but he didn't answer. As night wore on, worry consumed me. Anxiety made it impossible to focus on anything, and sleep eluded me. I got up, dressed, and took a cab to his shop. I figured he must be there. I hadn't been, but saved the address. It was a big place, taking up almost half the street. The bar buzzed with business at night. A line of sports cars parked outside, a few guys in black shirts smoking and chatting nearby. One of them spoke loudly enough to be heard across the street. I walked towards the bar, catching their attention. "Hey, this is a bar. Students aren't allowed." Thanks to my rushed exit, I was still in my school jacket. "Is Tim here?" Once I mentioned Tim's name, those guys straightened up. "You're looking for Tim. Who are you?" They eyed me up and down. But I didn't care. I just needed to know what happened to Tim. The loud one, Jason, called inside, "Bro. Someone's here for you." Tim turned from the bar. He froze for a second when he saw me. Then he seemed to snap to, frowning as he walked towards me quickly. "Who let you come here?" From the day I met him at 6 till now, he'd never been so harsh. For a moment, I felt really upset, tears welling up uncontrollably. "I called and you didn't pick up. It's late and you're not home. I don't know what's happened to you, I was so worried." Tim, seeing me cry, seemed to realize his shout was like 1,000 daggers. He wanted to comfort me but struggled for words, clearly burdened by his own troubles. I wondered if I was being unreasonable, if I should have just listened to him. Tim sighed, took my hand without looking back, and led me towards the parking lot. I could feel eyes on us as we left. When I tried to glance back, he said, "Just keep moving, don't look back." He walked fast, and I half ran to keep up. All the way home, he was silent, and I didn't dare speak up. I was angry and hurt, yet scared and timid. "Sorry." At a red light, Tim suddenly spoke. I shouldn't have yelled. "Sorry." I didn't respond. "I'm having a rough day." His voice carried a depth of sadness and raspiness. He confirmed what I feared. I broke down. I knew something was wrong, that's why I worried. "What happened?" The light turned green. The car moved, the engine and wind noises filled the silence. Through it, I heard Tim say, "Leo died." Leo hadn't visited us in a while. There were a few times before when he went out of town for missions, and it'd be ages before we'd meet again. Every time he finished a mission, he'd make time to have a couple of drinks with Tim and ask me about school and if I'd grown taller. This time was different. This time, he was gone forever. On the day of the memorial, Tim took me to see Leo one last time. Leo never married, close to 50, and was all alone. At the farewell ceremony, there was a line of his colleagues, all in tears, unable to compose themselves. Leo lay there quietly. Jack, his apprentice, told Tim that there were 7 knife wounds under the cover over the body. Jack also mentioned that Leo seemed to have uncovered some clues about the missing children from the orphanage, which also seemed to involve Becky. When he tried to pursue it further, he'd been discovered and killed. When his colleagues found him, Leo was lying in the weeds, his body cold, with 7 wounds, each one fatal. The clues left behind didn't match the case of the missing children from years ago, and it seemed the case was shelved again. Like a little glimpse of hope quickly swallowed by darkness. After all these years, he still couldn't let go. Jack, teary-eyed, said that Leo always felt guilty about Tim and Molly. If it weren't for the pressure to quickly close the case back then, a lot of clues wouldn't have been overlooked, including Molly and those kids. It started to rain, and Tim stood silently in the rain, watching from afar as Leo's body was wheeled away. As the farewell ceremony ended, someone who was once so full of life turned to ashes just like that. Leo's black and white photo was of him in his uniform for an ID, his features upright, gaze determined. From a distance, it felt like he was watching me and Tim, just like before. It was also that day when Jack told me about Tim and his sister. When Tim was 13, his parents died suddenly in a car crash. Relatives didn't want anything to do with him and Molly, severing all ties. With no other choice, the community placed them in a welfare home on the outskirts. Later, Tim went to a high school with dorms. Molly stayed alone at the welfare home. Every weekend, Tim would sneak back from school to spend a couple of days with Molly, one of their rare times together. Tim thought once he was in college, he'd have the time to care for Molly and take her away from the home. Sadly, that day never came. One Saturday, when Tim went back to the welfare home as usual, Molly was not there. He searched everywhere but couldn't find her. When he asked the head of the home, he was told Molly was adopted. Tim checked the adoption records. 7 kids were adopted, all girls. Molly was 6 that year. He followed the trail to find the adopters, but all information turned out to be false. Desperate, he went to the police. Leo was the officer who took the report. Without solid evidence of illegal acts by the welfare home and seemingly proper adoption paperwork, the search for Molly nearly came to a halt. Tim never gave up. A few years later, in a report about freak shows, he saw a picture of a girl crammed into a jar, only her head visible, and that face, it looked just like Molly. At that moment, his world spun, and he felt cold all over. He contacted the article's author and, using the geographic location provided, spent months trying to find the place. However, at the freak show, no one resembled Molly. He took the photo around, asking people in the club. Locals told him the girl did come with a smuggler but was killed by a customer last month during a performance. Tim was in disbelief, hoping that the girl just resembled Molly. But then, the club manager handed Tim an old tin box, the only thing left by the girl. Tim recognized it at once. It was a candy box he'd given Molly at the welfare home. She'd finished the candies but couldn't bear to throw it away. Inside was a family photo missing a corner. In the yellowed old photo, Dad was holding Molly, Mom was resting a hand on Tim's shoulder, and the family was beaming. The candy box no longer had the sweet taste, and those old photo shadows dripped with the bitterness of fate. After Leo passed, Tim was down for a long time. He barely went to the shop and ignored countless calls. He started spending all his time with me. He'd drop me off at school in the morning, be waiting at the gate to take me home for lunch, take me to a small restaurant by school for dinner, and then back for night classes. When it was over, he'd be at the gate again. This went on for months. My classmates thought he was my boyfriend. Wow, saw you leave with your boyfriend yesterday. So tall and handsome. The height difference is too cute to handle. A female classmate said with a teasing smile. Tim, with that face and ratio, was indeed the definition of a good-looking guy. If I told them he was my brother, it'd ruin all the fun. Ha, he is pretty handsome, I replied. My feelings for Tim, long hidden, yet unable to express, began to stir with innocuous teasing. After night classes, Tim was still at the gate waiting for me. Despite the lingering chill of early spring, he leaned against a sycamore tree, smoking. He wore a black tracksuit with leather boots, his jacket half unzipped, exposing his collar. As smoke drifted slowly out of his lips, Tim's face turned toward me, and my heart skipped a beat. His eyes held melancholy and sadness, yet his smile for me was especially gentle. Class over? Let's go grab some late-night snacks, he said, reaching out instinctively to help carry my backpack. I reached out and pulled up the zipper on his hoodie. It's a cold snap, I said. You've been standing out here waiting for me this long. Aren't you cold? My voice floated softly in the chilly spring night air. I looked up, and Tim was staring at me, looking straight at me. In that moment, we were pulling our mixed emotions to the extreme in the bustle of the world. The smoke from his mouth made my vision hazy. It's cold, let me hold you, he said. With that, Tim wrapped his arm around me and pulled me into his embrace. In the crowd as night class was let out, we stood under the sycamore trees, hugging. I wished that moment could last longer, but it was interrupted by someone calling Tim's name. I turned and saw Jason, the guy we saw outside the bar last time. Tim. What are you doing here? Jason first looked at Tim with interest, then his gaze locked onto me. Shouldn't I be asking you that? Tim's tone immediately turned cold and harsh. I was just passing by. Saw someone across the street that looked like you and came closer to check, Jason replied. Following Jason's words, Tim's eyes flicked up. He noticed there were a few people not far away, sneaking glances at us. A coincidence? Really? Tim's tone wasn't friendly. Tim, could you maybe lend me some cash? Jason grinned obsequiously, looking even more sleazy. Tim pulled me behind him and took out his phone, doing some quick stuff on it. The salary, the dividends, and everything from the past years. All sent to you, we're done. Jason glanced at his phone, his expression froze. Tim, what do you mean? I just need some money urgently, and I'll pay back soon. We've been. You don't need to pay it back. And don't say we anymore. Don't come looking for me again, I don't want to see you. Tim said, pulling me away. Jason started yelling. Tim. We've known each other for so long. Are you breaking up our friendship? Then tell me honestly, what's with those people over there? Tim interrupted Jason's rant and asked directly. I owe them money. If I don't pay tonight, they'll chop my fingers off. Who are they? Who do you owe so much money to? Who would gather this many people at night just to stroll with you? Tim sneered at him. Jason was clearly not expecting Tim to ask that. He looked worse and mumbled, unable to speak. Before he could say anything, Tim led me away. Some things he already knew, and Jason's answers were no longer important. That night, I started feeling like our stable life was about to encounter a storm. Plus, with Tim's mood lately, it seemed like he knew something was up. He carried it all, not trying to let it affect me. With just 2 months to go until finals, Tim knew I had no problem getting into a top-tier university and wanted me to aim for the best. But I didn't want to be that far from him. I had already decided secretly where I wanted to apply. After going through so much as a child, I developed a strong mindset. Even if I felt like something was going to happen, I still completed my exams without a hitch. When I submitted my applications, Tim asked if I'd applied. I shook my head. With his cigarette halfway to his mouth, he stopped and asked again. So, where'd you apply? You guess. I bit my lip, smiling secretly. Tim didn't say anything, looking a bit serious. It startled me, so I immediately admitted, I applied to the local university for science and engineering. No need to go out of town, it's good. Tim's Adam's apple shifted. He wanted to say something but didn't know how. I don't want to be far from you, I said. Lily, have you gone crazy? I thought he understood what I meant, realized how I felt, and my face got hot. Wherever you go, I can follow, but you shouldn't be stuck here just because of me. Tim's words made me rethink. Can I still change my application? Tim saw my dumbfounded expression and sighed, messing with my hair. Lily, you'll regret it. Later, I really did regret it. When Jane found me again after all those years and asked me to come home, I regretted it. I regretted not running far away, with Tim. Mark came on a Saturday. The moment he knocked, Tim and he stared at each other. Who are you looking for? Tim took the cigarette from his mouth, his voice rough. The visitor didn't reveal his identity and just asked, is there a girl named Lily here? I was watering plants on the balcony when I heard my name. Who are you? Tim didn't answer, he countered. I'm Lily's half-brother. I came to take her home. The half-smoked cigarette slipped from Tim's fingers, scattering ash everywhere. I stepped back in from the balcony and saw Mark in the living room. He stared at me for a long time, then smiled and asked. You're Lily? You sure have grown. My throat tightened, and memories from years ago resurfaced. Being dragged by Mark when I was a kid, the pain made my scalp tingle again. And when he locked me in a suitcase, pretending it was hide and seek, I'll never forget that hopelessness. Mark's fake smile triggered my stress. After more than 10 years without seeing him, just laying eyes on his face made me tremble. He's here to take me home? What's the good in that? Tim noticed my shaking and silently tightened his grip on my hand, pulling me behind him. Mark then asked Tim, how did you meet my sister? Tim wasn't fazed by the question. He looked straight at the man and said, I took Lily away from some bad guys. The words bad guys made Mark's face falter. He quickly changed the subject, saying they had finally found my whereabouts and that Mike had been thinking about bringing me back. Tim was grim-faced the whole time and asked in a deep voice when Mark suggested taking me home, why didn't your family look for her when she was taken away over 10 years ago? Mark was silent. Tim continued, why didn't Lily even have a formal ID back then? Still, no response from Mark. Again, Tim pressed, when she was gone for days back then, why didn't your family report it? A barrage of questions left Mark speechless. After a while, Mark replied, trying to stay calm, I don't know what happened back then, I was just a kid myself. Now it's my dad's idea to bring her back. He's got a terminal illness and doesn't have much time. In that instant, I couldn't even remember my father's face. How could I be his daughter with such a blood bond? If I had to be born in this world, I'd rather be a stray cat or dog than Mike's daughter. Tim lit a cigarette and said while lighting it, why should your Mike family get to bring Lily back from me? You never treated her well when she was with you. Your dad misbehaved and took out his anger on a child. What kind of a person does that? I've taken care of Lily for over 10 years now, and you say she should just go back. Why should I agree to that? So name your price, then? Mark didn't realize what saying those words would bring. The result was Tim lifting Mark from the couch like a little chick. Tim gritted his teeth and said to him, Lily isn't for sale. After a quick KO, Mark was thrown out, along with a few useless followers. Tim stood at the door, looking down at the sprawled group outside. Mark trembled, pointing at Tim, you better be careful. Without adoption papers, it's illegal custody. Wait to go to jail. Tim slammed the door shut with a bang, without wasting any more words. The moment the door closed, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I was shaking so much I felt like I might puke, my face pale, wanting to sit on the couch. But as soon as I took a step, my legs went weak. Before I knew it, Tim rushed over and caught me swiftly. Don't be scared, Lily, I'm here. It felt like a fish out of water returning to the sea, a torn kite finding a branch to cling to again. I clung to Tim's shirt, not letting go. Leaning against him, I bit my lip, trying hard not to cry out loud. I didn't know if Mark was still outside. I didn't want him to hear me cry. When I was a kid, at Mike's, every day was filled with fear, until I met you. That's when I felt like a real person. I stuttered through my words, my voice shaking so badly, my body too. Tim's eyes were red as he spoke in a hoarse voice. Unless you want to go back, I won't let them take you. He held me tightly, his strong arms wrapping me securely. His heartbeat was strong like a drum, and I couldn't help but be drawn to his scent. My tears soaked into his clothes. Tim held me like that, and I, feeling completely drained, dozed off while nestled in his arms. When I woke, it was dark outside. Tim was lying next to me. As I opened my eyes, he asked, "Awake? Hungry?" Just like that night he first took me in. Flashes of memories crossed my mind, highlighting my drifting life like floating duckweed. Seeing that I was still a bit out of it, Tim touched my forehead, his rough smoker's voice softly saying, "I kind of figured this would happen. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon." At a little over 30, he had a mature, rugged sexiness that was downright lethal. Every word and action felt like he was casting a spell, pulling me in. And I willingly let that spell take root in my heart. Tim gently wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, but they just kept coming. It was like a dam had broken. "What's going on? Can't stop crying?" Tim joked, but his eyes were bright too. "I don't want to go back." I mustered all my strength to hug him. His broad shoulders and slim waist felt perfect to hold. Tim let me clutch him tightly, resting my head in his chest as I cried, gasping for air. "You trying to choke me, kid? You choke me, you'll definitely have to go back." "Not funny, not at all," I muttered. You've grown up, I can't fool you anymore." "Do you think they'll come back?" I asked him, after crying myself out and looking up at him with teary eyes. Tim smacked his lips. "Who knows? Maybe they will. Technically, we're not legally related." That jerk wasn't wrong. I pondered. Mark's words echoed loudly. Tim's adopting me wasn't legal. He tried to do it officially but wasn't eligible. Unmarried men can't adopt girls unless they're 40 years older. But Tim and I only had a 14-year gap. Back then, Leo was really torn. He knew it wasn't right, but Tim flat out refused to send me away when I was 6. So Leo had to think of other ways. He once half-jokingly told me, "Tim's probably scared you'll turn into another Molly, that's why he's so eager to protect you." After Leo died, Tim was my only support. Tim tucked a stray lock of my hair behind my ear and said, "Since Mike's family came knocking, they're dead set on bringing you back. They wouldn't go to all this trouble otherwise. As for their reason, you'll probably only find out once you go back." I shook my head desperately. I didn't want to hear him say I should return to Mike's. I didn't want to leave him. I looked into his deep eyes, pleading with him through tears. Tim's Adam's apple bobbed as he looked at me and leaned in. But when our noses touched, he stopped. "Lily, you've grown up, and you can make your own choices," he said, his voice rougher than ever. So close, our breaths mingled between us. I saw my tear-streaked reflection in his deep eyes. I had been hoping, but Tim's logic won over his feelings. "But I want to be with you, always." At 18, I finally had the courage to confess my secret feelings to the one I loved. Tim smiled, placing a gentle kiss on my forehead. "I will. I'll always be with you." They came several times, trying to take me back. The last visitor was Mike's wife. 10 years had passed, but somehow she hadn't aged a day, still with that fierce face. "Didn't think you'd still be alive," she sneered. "Sorry to disappoint, but I'm doing just fine." Times had changed, and I had grown up. Tim's love gave me the courage I needed. "You don't need to bring me back," I said, surprising everyone including myself. Let's not waste time on each other when we can't stand the sight of one another. Her shocked expression was oddly satisfying. I'm not interested in your family's wealth. Let Mark keep it all for your precious son. Just leave me alone, I don't want to return to Mike's. You think I want you back? Mike's wife spat with a bitter laugh, but I could tell she was hiding something. Wanting me back had to be for a reason. Then don't come looking for me again, I said, standing to see her out. You come back, sign the papers to give up your inheritance, and after your dad passes, I'll arrange for you to study abroad. Then you'll be free. At the last second, Mike's wife revealed her real motive. It was all because she was afraid I, the illegitimate daughter, might claim some of the inheritance from her son. If you refuse, don't blame me for being ruthless. You wouldn't want to drag others into this, would you? You don't want the man who raised you to face legal consequences, right? He doesn't have legal adoption papers, and we can sue him. I think you know why I went missing back then, I interrupted her threats. Her frightened look only confirmed my suspicions. The details of my disappearance lingered in my memory. As I grew older, I often thought back, finding everything more and more suspicious. It seemed likely Mike's wife orchestrated everything. Having the nanny take me out and pretend I vanished on my own. That way, she wouldn't have to see the child she despised. What do you mean? For the first time, I saw panic on Mike's wife's face. I was bluffing, but her reaction meant there was more to the story. Curiosity got the better of me, I wanted to find out the truth. When Tim got home late that night, I was still awake, tending to my plants on the balcony. It's late. You're awake, and so are the plants, Tim teased from behind me, his voice immediately soothing. I turned to smile at him, even as he noticed something was off. What's bothering you? That smile doesn't look right. Mike's wife came to see me today, I confessed and told him everything she said. It's not just about the inheritance, Tim said as he draped his black jacket over my shoulders. It's chilly and you didn't put anything on. His warm jacket and presence soothed me. I told her she might know why I went missing, and it made her nervous. Tim thought for a moment, adjusting my coat and guiding me back inside. Since I started middle school, Tim insisted I sleep in the bigger room while he took the smaller one. We settled into silence, the only light from a small lamp casting a warm glow. Tim's finger tapped my forehead gently. Don't worry about it. The decision to go back is yours. No matter who searches for you, they can't force you if you don't want to. If you want to go back to discover the truth or deal with inheritance, I'll support your choice. For now, stop overthinking and get some sleep, or you'll ruin your skin. With that, he gently turned me towards the bed and gave me a small push. He headed to the room next door, closing the door behind him as I held his jacket close, enveloped in his scent. Tim will never know how much I long to be with him in that big bed. I recently started my freshman year in college, and adjusting wasn't easy. The family drama added to my stress. More frustrating was that living on campus meant I couldn't see Tim every day. Since I started college, Tim had become busy with his own things too. He's opened 2 more bars, business is booming, and people are lining up to get tattoos from him. His schedule's booked till next year, and Tim's reputation is skyrocketing. Plus, Tim's tall, good-looking, and of course, girls are naturally drawn to him. One weekend, I missed him so much that I sneaked home on a Friday night. To my surprise, I ran into a woman clinging to Tim's arm, acting all sweet and flirty right at the door. Tim's back was to me, so I couldn't see his face. But I did see the girl's expression. They call it a look of infatuation, right? Maybe I stared at her too long because she looked right back at me. Tim turned around too. The moment he saw me, the smile froze on his lips. My mind was a mess, emotions all tangled. I'd been with him for years, never seeing him with a girlfriend, or at least not letting me know. Now, we're in our 30s, and it's normal if he's dating or even thinking about marriage. Still, it was hard for me to see him with someone else. I walked over, unsure if I should smile or not. What brought you home tonight? Tim asked, completely turning to block the woman from view. He looked at me steadily, speaking in that gentle tone, but he seemed a little tense. I thought, maybe Tim wants a new life too. He's cared for me for over 10 years, and I'm grateful. Maybe going home is a fresh start for him too. No more troublesome visits, and no one else to take care of. I held back the pain in my heart and seriously told Tim, I've thought about it, I want to go back home, just so they won't come bother you anymore. If it's just to avoid them bugging you, you don't need to worry. No, it's not just that. I started to fib. I want to see if my dad is really dying. Tim looked at me with his cool gaze for a while, then nodded. As he lit a cigarette, he said, okay, just give me an address, and I'll take you there. The day Tim took me home, it was raining. I faced the car window the whole time, too embarrassed to look his way. It was my decision to go home, not to check if Mike was dying but to find out the truth from back then. Not just why I was taken, but also what happened to Tim's sister Molly and those missing kids from the orphanage. Could they be connected to Becky? The words Jack said to me at Leo's memorial stuck with me. I clearly remembered hearing Becky's name on the way when I was taken as a child. Could they all have an unknown connection with Becky? But deciding to go home tore me up inside when facing Tim. It felt like I betrayed him, yet he was smiling and happy for me. Wherever you go, whoever you're with, stay happy, then I'll be at ease, Tim said as we reached the villa. His words made me burst into uncontrollable sobs. Tim held my face, wiping away my tears, gently poking my cheek. You look prettier when you smile. But I couldn't muster a smile. Tears blurred my vision, and Tim's Adam's apple bobbed as he struggled for words. He just kept wiping my tears. Compared to when he first found me, he'd grown a lot more mature and weathered. His large double-lidded eyes had creases at the corners, and his scruffy stubble seemed a couple of days old. My eyes traced his face, and I suddenly remembered a question I asked him forever ago, one he never answered. Are we from different generations? I thought maybe Tim forgot why I asked that, and he'd ask me back, what different generations? But he hadn't forgotten. Tim smiled with tears, we aren't. So, I dared to ask for the unthinkable. Then can you kiss me? Tim smiled through tears, saying, next time we meet, I'll kiss you, just save it for now. That next time took a whole year. During that year, I lived like a zombie. When I reached home, Mike's wife was in the living room, not bothering to look up. She just ordered the driver to prepare the car. She took me to see Mike, to let me see what a pitiful sight my dad had become. Tubes everywhere, barely alive, yet occasionally speaking. Mike's wife, decked out in jewels, looked down on him with mocking eyes. Look, I found your lost daughter, she sneered at the bedridden Mike. Though Mike was dying, he still knew how to hit her where it hurt. With drooping eyes, his past flamboyance gone, he weakly told me, you look like your mother, so beautiful. His wife shot me a venomous glare. One simple comment extinguished her arrogance. But times have changed, I'm no longer that poor pitiful girl. I inherited the beauty of my unseen mother and the love and strength Tim gave me. I bided my time, learning their secrets. Like why they insisted I come back. Giving up my inheritance was one reason, but not because my dying dad had a surge of kindness. It was because, when he was setting up his will, he discovered my grandfather had started a family trust long ago, with a portion legally meant for me. Grandpa anticipated Mike and his wife wouldn't give me a cent, so he set this up for me. As long as I didn't sign it away, Mike's wife and her darling son would lose out on a third of the wealth. Like, for example, Mike's wife still hates my guts. But with a big pile of money involved, she's willing to hold back her urge to stab me, just to tolerate me for long-term gains. She uses me in every way possible, then tries to undermine and disgust me. That secret daughter, hidden for years, finally makes her debut, talented and pretty, catching all the headlines. With this excuse, she and Mark often use me like a tool. Like tonight, I'm here, doing the tool gig again. Didn't expect to run into Tim though. On Friday night, Mark drags me to a private club to schmooze. They're trying hard to suck up to this guy. Mark pulls me along, clearly using me as bait. High-end private club, nothing but glitz and glamour everywhere. Down the luxurious hallway, I spot him from afar. Tim's with a group, and they walk toward us. Last time I saw him was when he dropped me home. It's been a year, he looks more worn out. After I went back home, he never reached out again. Calls and messages return nothing but silence. I thought, maybe he's mad at me for ditching his care for the sake of an inheritance. When Tim sees me, his expression is cold and distant. My half-brother Mark sees him and sneers, "Oh, Lily, isn't that your dear benefactor?" I say nothing and just watch Tim, memorizing his features. Those thick eyebrows, double eyelids, and sharp nose. But Tim's expression remains indifferent, turning to chat with others, his eyes briefly meeting mine. As we brush past each other, Tim's hand grips mine tightly for a second. My heart turns over. But soon, reality hits hard. Mark pulls me into the room, a pudgy middle-aged man sits there. That's Calvin, their latest target of flattery. Whether they can snag that piece of land depends on how cheery this guy feels. With a shove, Mark nearly dumps me onto Calvin's enormous lap. "Uncle, this is my sister, Lily. You've been wanting to meet her, right?" The way Mark talks, like he's some kind of pimp. At least Calvin's seen the world, doesn't immediately start groping. But his eyes, filled with sleaze and greed, give him away. As drinks are exchanged, his hand seems to accidentally brush my leg way too much. During the night, I excuse myself to the restroom, needing air. Sneaky old guy follows me out without a sound. I barely step out, and Calvin has me cornered, smiling that despicable grin, leaving me nowhere to run. "Uncle, stop, people might see. It wouldn't look good." I hold back my nausea, trying to talk sense into him. The old guy ignores it and just moves closer. I back away repeatedly, bumping into someone. "Long time no see." A familiar, husky voice cracks through above me, my heart skips a beat. A steady hand holding my waist. Getting caught in a sleazy act by someone recognizable is like being handed dirt. Middle-aged men care about their image. The old man backs off awkwardly. Got away from the glitzy chaos of the night but can't escape the intimate darkness in these rooms. Tim pulls me into an empty room, locks the door, and I'm in his arms, restrained yet full of passion. Tim wraps me tight, my heart races. "Lily," Tim's hoarse voice breaks me. A year of silence, phone ignored, Instagram untouched. Why never reach out? Why? I blame him but can't leave his arms. Wrapped in his warmth, I want to stay here forever, trapped and helpless. Tim sighs, "You don't know how much I've missed you. It's driving me insane." I look up at Tim. He meets my gaze, eyes intense yet restrained. In the silent, dark room, he pins me to the wall. We haven't met in a year. Finally together, I plan to settle old scores. "Last time, didn't you promise a kiss when we meet again?" "Did you?" Before I finish, his lips shut me up. My first kiss, clumsily and shyly responding to his strong lips. In the quiet room, our desire roars, intense and wild. Deep, long kisses, tasting, clashing, entangling endlessly. "Where've you been all year?" I asked him curiously. "Visited Leo's hometown, then went overseas." "Overseas for what?" "Helping with an investigation." "Investigation?" Tim flashes a mischievous smile. "Just wait, play along today, you'll understand soon." Whispering something in my ear, Tim quickly has a plan. As we leave the room, Mark's looking for me. "Where'd you go?" He starts ranting. I let it all in one ear and out the other, remembering only one thing: spend more time with Calvin later. Since going home, I've been nothing but a pawn, using beauty for cash and power deals, but at least they hadn't ruined a minor back then. They knew teenage allure held power over those middle-aged men. Now, I'm grown, sharper as well. As Mark lectures, I'm recording on my phone. Might as well dig deeper. Why spend more time with Calvin? How exactly do I spend time with him? Mark looked at me like I was clueless, like I couldn't grasp something even a kid should get. That woman's kid isn't even our bloodline, and you can't understand that simple point. I told you, whether we get the land in East City depends on you making Calvin happy. You better get it together, or it won't end well for you. I caught every word of Mark's forceful speech on audio. I walked out of the club following him, and discreetly sent the recording to Tim. Our second stop was a secretive place, a private villa tucked next to a wetland park. There were several estate-style villas here, none for sale publicly, all privately owned. As we drove, I shared my live location with Tim secretly. Calvin, drunk, clung to me like gum. I couldn't shake him off. He reeked of booze and meat, and it made me want to gag. Walking into the villa, it became clear they had something bigger planned. I saw several big shots known for their shady under-the-table deals. I realized the night might turn out very badly for me. Once inside the living room, they took my phone. It was the same for everyone, no phones allowed inside. I felt a wave of panic, no more chance to call for help. Mark nudged me forward. What are you standing there for? Go sit by Calvin. This old man's eyes bore into me, sending chills down my spine. As I hesitated, commotion erupted behind me. I turned, it was Tim. Mark was visibly startled seeing Tim there. Before he could question why Tim showed up, the host stepped forward. Tim, long time no see. I've tried to meet with you a few times but you were always busy. Quite something to have you here tonight. The host, a club owner planning to open a live house, wanted Tim's advice since Tim's bars always succeeded. I watched Tim chat with the host effortlessly and then naturally sit next to Calvin. Someone recognized Tim. He was the guy Tim foiled earlier in the restroom. Calvin's face changed color with anger. Tim turned to me, smiling warmly. Why were you standing? Have a seat. I took a single-seat sofa next to him. The host seemed taken aback. Tim, you know Lily? More than know her, I raised her. Tim's words turned every eye in the room on Mark. A year ago, taking me back had stirred curiosity and questions among outsiders. They knew about the precious young master, but not about a daughter. They hadn't probed too much before, but now Tim put Mark in the hot seat. Mark stammered, well, back then, I was young. I had heard I had a lost sister. Not lost, taken, Tim added, cigarette dangling from his mouth. Amused, he awaited Mark's response on why I got lost. His ease showed he hadn't lost his knack for sharpness. Mark struggled, hoping to skirt the issue, but Tim wasn't having it. I remember Lily telling me she was beaten and insulted because she was your dad's kid with another woman. Wouldn't be your mom's doing, would it? Tim's words got everyone's attention. What nonsense are you talking about? Just heard Mike's wife got a bunch of shady businesses, nothing public. Calvin, hearing this, couldn't sit still. He got up, mumbling a goodbye. Mark's face was furious. Hot-headed, he tried to stop Calvin. Calvin, don't listen to him. Our business is all above board. Calvin waved him off, irritated. Every businessman says it's above board. Didn't you guys get investigated recently? Out of friendship with your dad, I agreed to help. But if there's shadowy business I'm unaware of, I'm not getting involved. The rest there as guests and supporters buzzed around Calvin. In the chaos, Tim quietly led me out, and I listened as police sirens neared. By the time police rushed in, everyone inside panicked. Tim and I stood aside, taking it in. Mark shouted angrily, "Where's Lily? Get her back." He knew since my return a year ago, I had gathered many secrets, market manipulation, credit fraud, money laundering. I'd saved whatever evidence I could. What Mike's wife kept hidden was her secretive ventures, so well concealed that even Mark didn't have access. Got any clue why they want you back? In the darkness, Tim's eyes were bright, staring intensely at me. To make me sign away my inheritance. Mike's got only days left, and then I'll be free, I whispered as I leaned against him. Is that what they told you? Tim raised an eyebrow, and I felt there was more to it than they let on. What else could it be? Did you find something? Becky got caught, and turns out, she's Mike's wife's cousin. Every time I showed up, she'd hang up quickly, giving me the most menacing look. Looking back, that person had to be Becky. No wonder I got taken away back then, close enough for an inside job. Lately, Becky was under surveillance. She tried to run but couldn't escape. Mike's wife probably sensed Becky wouldn't make it out this time. She's scared folks will uncover that she was behind getting you taken away and tries to act like you're at home with no connection to Becky. But she miscalculated. Once Becky got caught, all her shady dealings surfaced. The money laundering she did for Becky was nearly as serious as trafficking kids. Outside the room, voices grew louder, police shouts could be heard amid the chaos. Tim chuckled and said, after all this waiting, it's time to settle things. How'd you know they were planning something tonight? I realized then that meeting him tonight was no coincidence. Tim ruffled my hair. Jack has had someone inside for a while. I brought you in because Jack is leading a raid outside. After Leo died, his protege Jack never got over the past case. Unraveling what happened back then would fulfill Leo's last wish. With the recent crackdown on crime, Jack pushed for a review of the orphanage missing kids case. The old chief who rushed the case closed had fallen from grace over his involvement in covering up crimes, bringing up the case's loose ends. Jack wanted to tap Tim for any critical memories regarding Molly from back then. Even after all these years, Tim was haunted by Molly's mysterious disappearance and tragic death abroad. So, he agreed to help the police investigate Becky and her crew. Tim shared a key lead, a person named Jason. Years back, Tim had seen Jason mingling with Becky's crew, which made him suspicious. It wasn't the right time to act then. He didn't want to alert them. He hadn't let me visit the shop, wary Jason might be there, a smooth talker with a greedy nature. Tim remembered Leo's words about Jason's shady associates. Jason had another vice, gambling. Tim found out Jason was neck-deep in gambling debts, taking high-interest loans, spiraling deeper into debt. Around then, Leo met his end. Tim even wondered if Jason leaked Leo's whereabouts to Becky's people, leading to his death. The night I went to the shop was unforeseen by Tim. He rushed me away because he didn't want Jason seeing me. Jason was the first to learn about Tim rescuing me from those bad people. And Jason knew Becky's crew was still searching for me, urging Tim not to keep me around. Tim ignored him, quietly protecting me for over a decade. Through all these years, Tim never let Jason near the house or invited anyone over. God knows how many times he shielded me so I could grow up safe and sound. If Tim hadn't been seen waiting for me after school by Jason that night, they might not have found me so soon. It was that clue that convinced Tim I was taken due to Becky and her associates. After Tim started assisting with the investigation, patterns emerged linking them to Becky's clandestine trade. Becky had a complicated operation, posing as adoption families to take kids from orphanages. Boys were sold to rural areas valuing sons over daughters, girls trafficked overseas were condemned to lives of suffering. 10 years ago, Tim spared me from that fate and abuse. In the dark, watching the man before me, a tide of emotions washed over me. Do you have any idea who you've messed with this time? I said softly. And also, thank you for saving me. Tim lowered his head and kissed me. After Molly died, I actually thought about ending it all. Then you showed up, like a shadow of her, giving my life some purpose. Eventually, her shadow faded, and now your image is engraved on my heart. Mark was arrested in a police raid, along with Calvin. They were both taken away. The corporation was already facing a major financial crisis. There were insider trading and illegal manipulations going on. When auditors stepped in, they found major money laundering activities. At the brink of collapse, they still tried to hang on by laundering money through real estate transactions. They didn't expect Becky to be the first to fall. Tim stayed low for months, pretending to patch things up with Jason, gradually gathering evidence on Becky's underground money laundering operations. The illegal earnings from human trafficking and illegal activities were partly funneled into underground money lending, generating more and more profits. The other part was laundered, with commissions shared with Mike's wife. And there was also a human trafficking chain. Girls were specifically targeted, adopted, and then smuggled overseas by human traffickers. Over the past few years, who knows how many girls met a tragic fate. Molly was one of them. She was full of hope, longing for a close bond with her brother, never imagining her life would end in a foreign land. She endured inhuman torture. Had her limbs severed but was kept alive. Crammed into a tiny jar for onlookers' amusement. Her short life had very little happiness. And it ended in such an unbearable way. Every time Tim thought of Molly, his heart was torn apart. Back then, he saved me at all costs. Because he saw Molly's shadow in me. If someone could have saved Molly at her most desperate moment, even if it meant being worlds apart, it would be better than being tortured to death in a foreign land. It would ease Tim's heart a little. At least she'd still be alive. The noise outside gradually subsided, and Tim opened the door, taking me out. Outside. Police sirens wailed, and the distant dark night sky was illuminated by a bright moon, much like the moonlight that shone the night Tim saved me.